The most magnificent city in Europe was Paris, maybe. But Naples was on the same plan. Carlo was a very young and determined king to make this capital important. And so he wanted to build this Reggia to expand his propaganda against his relatives, Bourbons and Habsburgs.
To realize his dream, Charles approached one of Italy's most prestigious architects, Luigi Vanvitelli.
Vanvitelli's real name was Van Bittel. His father was a Dutchman who'd settled in this southern capital, and he was a genius. And his job, he was told by the king, you've got to make it bigger than Versailles. So it was bigger than Versailles.
It was definitely statement architecture. This palace said, I am the king, I am not being deposed, and I am here to stay, and I am rich, and I am powerful, and bow down to me, all country. So Vanvitelli, he had grand ambitions, and the sky was the limit, really, because Charles VII wanted everything that could possibly be done to create him as the great ruler who would never be pushed off his throne.
Not only did Luigi Vanvitelli design the Grand Palace, in 1753, he also engineered a water system that is the lifeblood of the entire kingdom, the Caroline Aqueduct. The challenge of bringing water to the palace from the Taburno mountain region 38 kilometers away was massive. The water system's source in the province of Benevento is 254 meters above sea level. By the time it reaches the waterfall in the palace gardens, the elevation is 203 meters above sea level. Transporting 700 liters of water per second, Vanvitelli's aqueduct is a mathematical marvel.
When you're designing an aqueduct, the art is to get the water to flow along it at an even rate. You have to lay the aqueduct to a very exact gradient. In this case, the gradient is just 1 millimeter in a meter. And there are many things that are very difficult to do, but measuring 1 millimeter in a meter with the type of instruments you had in the 18th century was not easy. And to consistently lay the aqueduct over this huge distance at that kind of gradient would have been extremely difficult.
If you think about it, the best way to allow water to transport over long distances is just to allow gravity to do its thing. The problem is that if the water is flowing too fast, then it can actually erode the structure because you get, fast-flowing water and it's kind of cutting away at the stone or the tunnels that you've built or the mud or whatever materials you're using. But on the flip side, if it's not flowing fast enough, then bacteria and other nasty stuff can start growing in it and actually contaminate the water. So there's some kind of happy medium ground that the engineers would have had to figure out over a vast distance, and that to me is some really impressive engineering.
The majority of the Caroline Aqueduct is underground, hidden amongst the mountainous terrain.
Ci misero ben 3 anni per fare una galleria di appena 1 chilometro. E si racconta questo incontro, incontro da queste 2 squadre di operai che praticamente riescono a rompere l'ultimo diaframma di roccia con Vanvitelli da un lato presente e altri suoi collaboratori, architetto Collecini, dall'altro. In questa impresa era una gioia per tutti, ma chiaramente questa opera ha avuto anche un costo abbastanza elevato nella sua realizzazione e per l'epoca, erano intorno ai 622.000 ducati, attuali 10,5 milioni di euro.
It took nearly a decade to complete the epic project, opening on the 7th of May 1762. The part of the aqueduct that is visible, the Ponte della Valla, was at the time the longest bridge in Europe.
Furono iniziati i lavori nel 753. Pensate che i ponti della valle, quindi l'opera architettonica più importante, pensate la lunghezza 523 metri, alto 60 metri, 3 ordini di archi, quindi di una valenza strutturale abbastanza importante per l'epoca.
Van Vitelli did these extraordinary calculations, but to build it is a whole other challenge, because when you're building things out of big pieces of stone, when you're tunneling through mountain, when you're creating these channels, things move. Your stone might be 0.5 millimeter bigger than you expected. So there must have been a huge amount of accuracy that went into the actual construction of it in order to achieve that really, really gradual slope.
In the history of fountains and cascades, there are many examples where people spent a great deal of money and then it didn't work. What was so successful at Caserta was that it so obviously works, that the cascades are so dramatic, that the water is produced in such quantity, that all of the gymnastics, all of the huge length of the aqueduct is worthwhile because it creates these amazing effects at the end. It creates one of the most dramatic cascades ever constructed.